What's up, everyone? I'm here at Tim's place.
Welcome.
Tim, welcome to your house. Welcome to your studio.
Thank you. It's nice and warm, right? Can't beat that.
It is warm. It's actually unusually cold here in Los Angeles. I was shocked when I came in last night.
Yeah,
probably the coldest night that I've ever experienced here.
Coldest night of the year so far.
Yeah.
So you got it.
So, Tim, you're playing this Paul Reed Smith guitar that you had built for you, well, how long, 5 years ago or so?
Yeah, I had it built, and I wanted to disguise it. I wanted people to think for the first 5 seconds that maybe it was a Les Paul. So I said no birds, and hopefully that I didn't get in trouble for that, but I'll never know because it was behind the scenes. And then the only bird is here instead of the signature. So I wanted, at least for the first 5 seconds of recognition, for this to be not a PRS, and then people can realize.
Okay, so you've been practicing lately.
Yep.
So what kind of things are you practicing?
Well, let me show you. I'm working on my speed. I've never been that fast a guitar player, but let's see if I can play something moderately fast.
Killer.
Okay.
Okay, so why are you practicing playing fast now?
Because I have enough time. Well, I don't have enough time, but I feel like I finally have some time to actually get things up to speed and compete with all my buddies who play so fast.
Okay, so I like that you actually play with a track. Why play with a track? Or do you practice without the track and then playing with the track? Because really it's like actually playing to something is where the rubber meets the road, so to speak.
For me, it's like being a doctor without a patient. If you're a doctor and you have all your tools there and there's no patient, what is there to do?
Right.
But it's also, I always was an ensemble player. And for me, that's the whole game. I mean, some people don't like to do that, but I was never the guy that impressed people by just sitting by himself and doing solo work. I've always been an ensemble player. My love of music comes from songs, primarily, guitar secondarily. So, yeah, I like track.
And what are we hearing? What amplifier are we hearing?
So this is cool. Marshall was kind enough to send their affordable 20-watt
which
studio
I also
amp.
have.
Yes, and I heard
amp.
great things about this, and it is great. Check it out. There's a distortion pedal on it. My Karma, which is the clone of the ODR1.
Yep. There's still like a kind of a sparkly top end to it.
Absolutely. Nothing to not like. And it's affordable. I like finding these things. It's really nice.
Talk about the amount of overdrive to use and about where you kind of hit a point where it becomes overly compressed and kind of where you like to sit as far as your tones.
Okay, just like everybody, I loved high gain stuff in the early days. I got my first Soldano from Mike Soldano. I was on, you've seen that list where I was one of the first guys to get one. It was really fun. And I was just singing with it. But now that I've gotten older, and I've complained about older guitar players playing cleaner, I like it to be a little cleaner. But for me, it's really that sweet spot in the late 60s where it's classic rock. And the whole game for me is having it clean when you pick lightly and distorted when you pick hard.
Wow.
And then all of the levels in between, and that's how you punctuate. And
there's where I can hear that bell tone to that.
And yet, you have that when you hit it hard, so that's the tone I like.
So I would say, though, that most older guitar players that I hear that are out touring, that are in groups, play with too much distortion. And they do that because their hearing starts to go.
Well, I agree with you on that. Luckily, I've avoided that. My hearing is starting to go. But
I'm saying that people that have really severe hearing loss.
Right. That's
and
true.
they use that distortion to actually, the more distorted a tone is, the easier it is to hear it when because there's more harmonic information.
I also think that anything can become a crutch, and a distorted tone means you don't have to articulate. It's easier to be a little sloppy, maybe. Not like our heroes, but it's easier to get by with a more distorted tone and not have the nuance and sense of touch that great players have.
When you talk about things like having a compressed tone or a spongy tone, or what are different terms that you hear that you use or that you hear people use related to amplifiers or guitar sounds?
Right. Well, Andy Wood used the word chewy on a video today, which I won't use that word. Spongy is good. I like the sag of an old transformer on an amp where you hear it kind of give out a little bit on the bottom end. I like that. Edge of breakup is still a good one. Articulation.
Explain edge of breakup.
Well, edge of breakup is where the amp has its perfect spot. Maybe on a Fender it's around 6. Every amp has that perfect place. On a Plexi Marshall it might be at 8 or 9. Where clean starts to turn into dirty. It just starts to compress, but not too much. And so everything evens out just a little when you hit it hard, but everything opens up when you hit it soft.
So you want to have a tone that is, when you play softly, you can get a really clean tone.
Absolutely.
With but it still has to have enough gain on it so that you've got that harmonic information that'll speak. Yeah, especially inside a track.
I even did a video once that all my clean tones are dirty. And even this clean tone, I'm tricking you. There's plenty of distortion in there, plenty of gain in there.
Yeah.
But you and I have talked about this.
Without that, Tim, what happes to the sound?
It's not a tone.
It's not a tone. It isn't.
I mean, it's great if you're doing Nile Rodgers and you're fitting into a track, to have it a totally clean sound. But if you really want the guitar to wake up, totally clean doesn't work for me. Totally clean's not a tone.
Which is why you like to use overdrive pedals, and I like to use overdrive pedals.
Yeah. Get the amp to its right place where it's doing what it's supposed to do. And if you want more, don't change the amp. Use a pedal. And that pedal is often best if it's barely on.
Yes.
And so instead of turning that one up for more, use another pedal for more and chain overdrives. It's a really great way to add distortion.
Okay, so when I was producing and recording guitar sounds, I would, a lot of times if I'm doing metal guitar bands, I would have amps that would just get the tone. And I would use pedals basically to tighten up the mids and things like that. And they'd barely be on. There'd be almost no distortion on them. Yeah. But it would just basically low pass the guitar or high pass the guitar going into the amp, and it would tighten up the mids. And then the sound of the guitar was just the distortion of the amplifier, right?
Yeah.
But if I was doing overdubs and I wanted a part to speak, I would use a cleaner sound that's edge of break, and then I use an overdrive pedal to do exactly what you're talking about.
Well, both work. If you get the sound from the amp, and then you just use the pedal to smash the front end. So we're into semantics again.
Yeah.
To wake up the front end, to smash the input. I'll use a microamp for that, which is one knob and one button.
Yeah.
It sounds like the amp, but it's just getting hit harder. So that's what you're talking about with the first philosophy. The second one, you can really shape everything. You can use a compressor, outboard compressor, and so that it's right in your face. And then it can be a clean tone, and then you add a distortion on a clean amp. And, like a totally clean amp, like a Hiwatt 100 with a fuzz, that's a whole nother level of, it's a perfect platform for a fuzz. A really, really clean, loud amp.
So me being a producer and a recording engineer, I always say to people, when you're chasing someone's tone on a record, you really don't know what happens inside the control room on the mixing console, because it's almost never untouched. In that when Eddie Van Halen's guitar came through on the Van Halen 1 and it comes into the console and the reverb's added and there's probably EQ added, Right? And so talk about that for a minute.
Okay, the biggest sin as a guitar player I've ever committed, and I committed it all the time, was giving too much low mid and too much bass, because that makes me think I'm big. That's my identity. But like, I remember the first time I saw I was working with Hugh Padgham back in the ancient history,
right?
And he said, "Look what I'm doing," and he had the Neve console, and he was shelving off the entire bottom end of my guitar sound. Now I've gotten a little better about that. I can actually have an identity and a great self-image without all that low mid and that bottom end. Just the guitar players I loved, like Michael Landau, they just had this amazing low mid and bottom end. But anytime it's mixed, it gets kind of put in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, so is it worth it to actually put it on in the first place, or are you almost better off not even having it in there?
You're better off not having it in there. It's okay. You can. the people like that will save you.
Okay, and explain to people why you want to lop off the bottom end like that.
There's only so much room in a song, and there's only so much room on any record you hear. And if you're going to have room for the bass and the drums, the guitars have to sit in the middle. And the guitars can shrink pretty small sometimes.
Yeah.
But the way to keep them big and have their space is to take away the bottom end that's not clouding anything else. And there's only so much space. There's not infinite space on a record.
So I was interviewing Ken Scott, the engineer, producer, at Abbey Road. I haven't put out the video yet, but he was talking about recording the Beatles. And I was thinking about songs like I Feel Fine. And I don't know if he worked on that or not, but he talked about they would record it and they would mix in mono. They would record in mono. And the stereo part would be kind of like an afterthought. Oh, we need to also have a stereo mix. Just like people nowadays will do an Atmos mix or whatever, right? So when you hear the stuff in mono, if you think of that part is, I think, Lennon playing his Gibson acoustic through an amp, and then George, whatever he's playing, or Rickenbacker, whatever he's playing there, the tones are completely different. And when you're in mono, in order to hear, you can't use the same tone with both guitars. Otherwise, you can't distinguish between them. So they would have radically different tones. And then when you put it in stereo, it sounds amazing. It sounds huge or wide, right? And he was saying to me about, that's a really good thing to do, is to actually go in and get your sounds in mono, right?
I agree. When I was about 12 years old, my best friend, I went into the bathroom and there was a clock radio on the toilet. And it had a speaker literally about that big. And, what was playing was... And I was sitting there going, that sounds like the biggest, most evil, hugest thing I've ever heard. And it was mono through maybe a 1-inch speaker.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I fell in love with rock. It was just the power of the sounds and the power of not putting too many things. Like the period of disco was where there was too many, everything gets small if you put too much in it, But yeah, like a 3-piece with just the guitar and the bass and the drums in mono. Pretty great.
Now, they used to have, when we'd have a 1/2-inch or 1/4-inch mix down reel to reel, and they would have a little monitor speaker in it, and you could listen to it, and you just realize that all that information, like you're saying, really is just in the mid-range. And
right.
if you get the mid-range right, you got the whole thing right.
Yeah.
But it's so important to get those mids, because that's where all the vocals live. That's where all the chords, the guitar chords, the piano, everything is living in that mid-range.
And it has to share space. Now, hip-hop would be different, because there's so much clarity everywhere. You don't have acoustic instruments. You don't have distorted guitars. It's easier. It's almost more high fidelity. Well, it's definitely more high fidelity. Samples and super low sounds and super high sounds. But with organic music, rock, yeah, it's all in the mid-range.
Did you, when you were doing sessions back in the, late 80s, early 90s, if there was a session with a drum machine versus real drums, what would be the difference? Would there be any difference in the parts that you would play?
There was a certain point when I was playing too far behind the beat, and that was from coming up with drummers prior to being on the grid 100% of the time. I was taught to play behind the beat and lay back. Like if I was playing with Mickey Curry from Bryan Adams' band or somebody like that, back, back, and you play back, back. And then when everything moved forward and got on the grid, I had to relearn. And that's probably the biggest difference. A great drummer is going to play with the time, and it's going to sit somewhere. But then a drum machine, you're going to have to move everything of yours forward to match it. So that's the difference. Other than that, generally if it was with a drum machine, I was overdubbing. And then you're just kind of painting over something that's already been painted.
Right.
But if it's tracking with the drummer, my goal was always to get inside the kit pocket-wise. Like if it was Rick Marotta or Matt Chamberlain or whatever, you want to get your part so that it's somehow part of the kit rhythmically. Mm-hmm. That was always my goal, is to be part of the drum kit rhythmically. Literally as if he was triggering me, just find that perfect pocket. And they're all different. All drummers are different.
What about tones? Like if you got a sound, could you pretty much call up any sound and just find a part for it?
A lot of times the sound dictates the part. Mm-hmm. So if it's...
But I mean, could you say you could really, you're on a session, you could pretty much play, randomly push pedals or have somebody, and then come up, whatever sound came out, you could find a part that would work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's just kind of, you become an encyclopedia of music. So you take something from the 50s or the 60s or the 70s or the 80s or the 90s or the 2000s or right now, and you apply that to whatever song you're working on right now at this moment. And it's all fashionable because sometimes the people you're working with have never even heard the genre that you're pulling from.
Right.
So yeah, it's easy. Like a clean rockabilly sound with a baritone, you might add that. And then you come up in the middle and do, like I said, the Nile Rodgers kind of part. And then you come up high and do the Coldplay style arpeggio. And all these things work, and they're all variations on a theme. So it's either cleaner or dirtier or low, mid, or high, or effects or no effects. I mean, bone dry is the most amazing guitar sound you can possibly have. But it's also nice. Anything you do, try and do the opposite next, Try and do a really wet ambient part with the dry part. That's what I tried to do.
Okay, so let's say you've got this guitar here, and then you have no other gear, and I say to you, Tim, okay, you can buy 5 pedals and 1 guitar amp.
Okay.
What do you do?
Okay, the right overdrive, which would be a Nobels ODR1 or a clone of it.
Okay.
A tremolo vibrato.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. So tremolo is essential for just laying down chords.
Okay,
right? Yeah. I don't really need a compressor. I need a delay that's got modulation you can darken. So let's just simplify. Tremolo, overdrive,
okay, well
delay.
Give me some specifics. I know that you have many different pedals and things like that, but just what's the first thing that comes off the top of your head for a delay?
For a delay, right now I'm using a Olivera, which is an oil can reverb that I really love. It's dark. Before that, maybe the Halo by Keeley, the Andy Timmons. Yeah. Because he has it voiced exactly the way we all like it. Yep. Darkened, modulated delay. Mm-hmm. So those are delays. Tremolos, I want it to have a really soft, slow wave, and not all can do that. I have a Carl Martin that does it well. A Boss can do it well, sometimes a Boss tremolo. And then, of course, the VB2 vibrato is incredible. And Wazacraft, the new version of that, is great because it's not noisy. And then a reverb. And
what would that be?
There's lots of brands. I'm trying to think, what do I have over there? I think I was using a Line 6 HX1 Stomp for the reverb. Because there's all kinds of reverbs now. I like really, really big, long ones. But I also like traditional spring for stuff. So reverb, delay, tremolo, vibrato. That's 4. Overdrive.
Okay, so if you were in a session and you have reverb on your sound, is that something that the producer's going to say, let's put the reverb on later?
The most amazing thing happened. It used to be forbidden to print with reverb. And then at a certain point, you could print 100% of the time with reverb.
Okay. So what happened?
Great.
What happened?
I don't know. It's just things loosened up, and maybe the ego part of that side of the console.
Because they're basically giving up their control later, right?
Exactly. And they trust you, and they just want the sound to be the sound, and it works. Maybe they know they can hire the other guy tomorrow to do it dry.
Right. If need be.
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe the other guy's already coming in and...
So there's been this incredible resurgence of the song Iris. I mean, it's just getting played all the time. And, you got called to do the session, kind of a last minute thing. And did you ever think that, now you've had songs that played for years and years, but this is unusual song. It's probably 95, 96 it came out.
Uh-huh.
And here we are in 30 years later, and it's had a massive resurgence. Is it strange that to hear parts that you played that...
What's strange about it is that a lot of the stuff you do as a musician ends up making you cringe later. Mm-hmm. And there's none of that on that song. That is just as grand and beautiful and modern, and it's, how could you be more proud of anything?
Is it because of that it uses a lot of acoustic sounds and things
a
like
lot
that?
of acoustics.
Which really never age.
Yeah, and there's nothing obvious about the hook or the commerciality.
Yeah.
It's not obviously commercial. It's a beautiful melody, and 6/8 is just always a wonderful thing. And then the orchestra, and
it's a great orchestral arrangement in that song.
Yeah, David Campbell. Everything is just right on it, and it has stood nothing trendy about the drum sounds, So many things I did in the 80s were great, but they had that gated drum sound, and you can't really listen,
Now, was that Jack Joseph Puig that mixed it?
Yeah. Rob Cavallo produced it. Yeah, Johnny came up with the song and the acoustic guitar tunings, and then Rob Cavallo produced it, and then Jack Joseph Puig spent quite a bit of time mixing it. Yeah, they gave him, the thing about movie soundtracks is the budgets were unlimited, so you could take as long as you wanted to get it any way you wanted, and hire the orchestra and take as long as you wanted to mix it. But right. I did 3 mandolin takes.
That was chump change for the movie business back then.
There was no budget, no ceiling to the budget, none. So I did 3 mandolin passes. I wrote a chart that was not accurate because I was just meeting these people. It was the first day I met these people, and I wanted to get out there and start playing and win something before too much time had passed. So I wrote down a chart, and it was a pretty complex song. And it was kind of like sort of the chords. So I just went out and started winging it on mandolin. And they liked the first take, and then I did another, and they did another, and they made a comp. So it was 3 passes. And then, I've told the story too many times. I brought my giant guitar rig, and they were really mad about it. Mm-hmm. And but it was there, and Rob said, let him have a shot. And so I played a slide solo. I thought, what can I do that's not a guitar player and his ego? And I thought, slide will be 1 note at a time.
Yeah,
that'll put me in the right zone, and it worked.
Okay, so changing topics here. When you started on YouTube in, 2014 or so, did you ever think that it would become what it's become, especially the music space?
No, I mean, I feel so fortunate to have decided to pivot and have known some people who were doing it, and to be able to model, what Marty Schwartz was doing and a couple other people. And I just never gave up. And, there was a decade where I did a double shift, doing sessions and doing the YouTube thing. And I was okay with that. I couldn't do it now, but it was just nice when the pandemic hit to have this thing that everybody wanted to stay home and experience, which was this education site. And from then on, it's just been really, really a great way to segue into something meaningful, something helpful to people, and something where I can actually reach people directly and not be anonymous in the background. It's wonderful.
Did you ever think that it would become now it's so established, the YouTube music space, I mean, YouTube in general is so established that it's almost hard to remember that it was kind of a weird thing to do when you first started, right?
Yeah, in the beginning, it took me a couple of years not to be embarrassed by watching myself talking about this stuff.
And you always said to me that you have to be willing to be humbled, because you just you're basically starting at the beginning, getting subscribers and building your channel, and you have to. It's just kind of weird, especially when you're a professional musician. You're used to playing on the biggest records, and then you get on YouTube and you got 5 subscribers and 10 subscribers and 100, and you're getting 15 views a video, then 100 views, then maybe 300 views, and you just got to stay with it.
Yeah, it's not glamorous, and sometimes it's very tedious. And I do a lot of videos that I throw away and start over on. I don't think you do, but we all have our own cross to bear. So it's been difficult, and there's it's you sit by yourself and you do this work and you judge it, and I try and make it better. And it's not the prestige of getting a call from Bob Dylan and going to do some great session with great players, and it's the opposite of that. You're what are you doing? It is very humble. Yeah. But people love it, and people are appreciative. So that's the greatest thing.
And Tim, how has YouTube changed? I mean, you're really a student of. I know that the guitar space, especially.
Yeah.
You're friends with a lot of the players in there. So am I. And how has it changed?
Well, the guitar space is not getting the love from the algorithm that it got, let's say, 4 years ago. We're all doing well enough, but we were doing astronomically well at a certain point. And I think there are reasons for that. I think the algorithm, the business model, focuses on other content as a priority rather than the guitar space. But the main thing that's happened, and Jack Conte is right about this, it used to be that the algorithm would send your videos to your subscribers and your followers.
Yeah.
It does not do that anymore.
Well, it actually hasn't done that in a long time now.
Okay. All right.
But I know that it's...
So you're on your own. Every video is a one-off.
I always tell people, it's like, a lot of people don't realize that they're not subscribed to your channel or my channel.
Yeah.
But they get our videos in their feed. If they watch our channels, it automatically shows up there anyways. It's kind of ingenious. And I had done a video the other day that was not a huge video. I knew it wasn't going to be a huge video. And then, of course, the one after it that I put out yesterday, I won't say what it was, but it started out incredibly slow, because when you decide on a topic that is going to be really niche. I mean, I'd never shy away from that anyways. I'd put it out, even knowing it's not going to do well, but I know that it's something I believe in. It's something I feel is important to put out there. And then I always know the video after that gets sent out to a much smaller audience and basically has to prove itself to YouTube or to the algorithm that it's worthy of being sent out to more of your subscribers, right? And that's just part of the... That's part of the whole thing.
It's like you're getting in the ring with a new adversary every time and just punching as hard as you can. It's brand new every time now. And you're right. If you do something that's a piece of art or literature or whatever, and you're doing it for yourself, doesn't get as many views, then there's a penalty to pay for that. So
there is.
Yeah,
it's kind of funny to think of that. I put out something that I know is esoteric, and I know it's not going to do well. And I always would think about, okay, well, I need to follow it up, or I'll have something already done that I know I'll follow it up with. So I'll purposely put that esoteric video out, and then follow it up with something that I know is something that people are expecting or look.
Yeah, you have a safe space for the piece of art because the next thing is going to be something people will click on because it triggers them.
Okay, right. So Tim, you and I love gear. We talk about gear a lot, offline, not here on this. And there's always something that you're looking for, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But you don't always know what it is.
No, and there are gaps, and you think, have I lost my mojo because I don't want anything right now? But then it comes back, and then sometimes opportunities rise, like friend of mine that I rented gear from, Brett Allen, Studio Rentals, selling a lot of his stuff. So I got a couple of Vox amps from him recently, and happy to have them.
Early 60s Vox amps.
Yeah, and early 60s AC15
and they
AC10.
sound amazing.
Yeah, they sound amazing. And 62 Les Paul SG, which I always wanted one of those. That came across my bow. So sometimes it's waiting for the guitar to show up. And there's nothing more pleasurable. If you have a friend that's selling a guitar, that's the best experience there is, buying from a friend.
Well, I've been I go through periods, as you know, where I don't buy anything for maybe a couple years or anything. And then all of a sudden there's something that I get in my head that I want to try out or that I want to use for a video or something like that. And, most of the time for me, like I bought a bass drum yesterday, just one that I've been, looking for. I've been thinking about very early 80s Yamaha Recording Custom birch bass drum. They have a certain sound. This is a 24 by 14. Now it seems like kind of a weird thing to buy, right? But these are the things that I look for, and I'll just kind of be searching around, and it's like, oh, here's one. Oh, this looks good. And let's see, how much is shipping? I don't know. And found a good deal with the seller and bought it. But that's kind of a strange thing as a guitar player. Of course, I don't necessarily think of myself as a guitar player.
No, you make records. You're a producer, so that's part of your palette. So those drums are just the same as me getting these Vox amps. It's no different. You'll experience that sound. You'll record a song soon.
Yes.
And when your favorite drummers will be sitting there, and you'll get to hear that thing, it'll be worth it.
Well, the first thing I did today, I haven't even gotten the bass drum, but I bought about 6 heads for it. Right? So, and I'm really excited to get the thing mic'd up and try it out and hear what it sounds like. Hopefully it sounds good, and I didn't waste a bunch of money on new heads.
The tools are inspiring, and they bring art out of you. Whatever you get is going to send you in a direction, down a trail that you wouldn't go down if you didn't have that piece of gear. So it's a good thing.
Is there something that you have been looking for that you really haven't found? Is there any piece of gear that you're thinking like, man, if I could only find this? Like I've been looking for this tuxedo knob bassman and I just can't. Anytime I think of looking for it, I never find one.
Right. It happens to me too.
Like you told me these are common, you can find them. It's like every time I look, I can't find one. If anyone's got one out there.
Yeah, well, it's true. You're looking, then you stop looking, and you look on Reverb, and somebody just sold one, and you just weren't paying attention.
That's right.
It was up for one day, and somebody bought it.
Yeah.
Okay, the thing that I want is, and it may come soon, in a different form. I had one of Carlos Santana's Dumbles here that Larry Carlton actually owned too, and it was the most narcotic sounding amp I had ever heard. I totally got it. I missed the Dumble thing back when I could have got in early, just because it was too problematic. He was the only guy who would repair your amp. They were expensive, took forever. He had Dean Park's amp for like 14 years. It was a hard thing. I didn't go for it. But now that sound, I totally get it. And I would love to have one of those amps, but they're just too darn expensive. But the estate is now making an amp that will, there's no way it's going to sound like the originals totally because the parts are modern, but it's going to be good. So it might be in the future. But that is the one thing, a real Dumble, I could never justify, that astronomical price.
Is that something that Larry would have used? That's not stuff he used in the studio, right?
I think he did for a little while. The thing is, they were not appreciated. It was the timing. Like a lot of Larry's Steely Dan stuff, I think, was with a Fender amp.
Yeah, with a modded Princeton, I think.
So the Dumble sound wasn't necessary, but it was a luxury, and it was great. And I think probably Robin Ford, more than anybody, stuck with it, and Carlos Santana. Both of those guys stuck with Dumble as their actual sound. But in life, you can get a sound out of anything at a certain point. So, and that's good too. I want everybody to have access to everything. I think everybody should be able to get the best sound I ever got.
Are we still at the best time for gear, Tim, right now in 2025?
Beyond, yeah. Only there is probably a little too much of it around now.
Okay.
What was affordable to me as a teenager is too expensive for many people's tastes these days.
Yeah.
I worked really hard mowing lawns, and my mom and I met halfway on with some money, and I bought a Stratocaster, and that Stratocaster, the price of that thing would be unaffordable today in today's dollars.
Yes.
But people are used to getting these amazing guitars for, way less than we used to pay for them. And
adjusted for
adjusted for the passage of time.
That's right.
So it is the best time around for gear in history.
Yes.
But there's a lot of gear that's just kind of okay out there.
Yeah. And would you say that there's pro audio gear that is available for people that's as good as any of the gear in any of the studios back in the day?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you only need, I only need 2 channels of Neve to get my job done. A drummer needs 8 or 10 or 12. It's a little bigger lift there, but yeah, it's all available to us. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Tim, been great hanging out.
Always great.
And I'll be seeing you here in a couple months when I come out for the NAMM show. So
that'll be fun. Wild times.
Hit subscribe, follow Tim's channel, follow me, leave a comment. Thanks for watching.